The hidden cost of the carrot. Every morning, Maria clocks in at the diner on 34th Street before sunrise. She's worked there for 12 years, through recessions, pandemics, and now the quiet unraveling of her neighborhood. The tips have dried up, the regulars are fewer, and the rent on her one-bedroom apartment has doubled in 3 years. She doesn't blame the new arrivals, not out loud, but she sees the math. While she scrapes together every dollar to keep her life afloat, city buses roll in daily, unloading thousands of foreign nationals who, within hours of stepping onto American soil, are handed prepaid debit cards worth thousands of dollars, placed in hotels paid for by taxpayers, and enrolled in food and housing assistance programs that Maria herself was denied when she first moved to the city. Maria's not alone. Across New York, and in cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, and Denver, working-class Americans are watching their communities transform overnight. Not through organic growth or economic opportunity, but through policy-fueled migration that prioritizes newcomers over those who've built, paid, and stayed. These locals aren't racists, xenophobes, or reactionaries. They're nurses waiting 6 months for a dental appointment because emergency rooms are flooded with non-emergency cases from unvetted arrivals. They're teachers in classrooms so overcrowded they can't give individual attention to any child, native or newcomer. They're bus drivers, grocery clerks, and construction workers whose wages stagnate while their tax bills explode. And it's not just about money. Crime has surged in neighborhoods where social services are stretched beyond capacity and accountability evaporates in the chaos of rapid, unplanned population influx. Local police departments, already understaffed, are overwhelmed by incidents they weren't trained or equipped to handle. Meanwhile, city planners talk about integration and compassion, but never about consequence. Never about the single mother working 2 jobs who now feels unsafe walking to the corner store, or the elderly veteran who can't get a timely specialist referral because the system is buckling under demand it never budgeted for. Housing tells its own brutal story. As thousands of migrants are placed in hotels, apartments, and emergency shelters, often at premium rates paid by the city, local renters get squeezed out. Landlords convert long-term units into short-term migrant housing because the city guarantees payment. That means fewer available apartments, higher rents, and families forced into longer commutes or substandard living conditions. Basic necessities, food, energy, transportation, all rise in cost as demand spikes without corresponding infrastructure investment. Yet the narrative remains the same. Anyone who complains is anti-immigrant, as if pointing out economic strain is equivalent to hating human beings. But here's what no one in power wants to admit. This isn't about compassion. It's about incentive. As long as the U.S. government, local, state, and federal, dangles a $150 billion carrot in front of anyone who crosses the border, people will come. Not because they hate America, but because the system rewards arrival, not contribution. And who pays? Not the policymakers. Not the bankers handling the prepaid cards for a $53 million commission. Not the activists who champion open borders from gated communities or university offices. No, the bill lands squarely on Maria and millions like her. The working people who never asked for this experiment, but are forced to fund it, live through it, and watch their quality of life erode. All while being told their suffering is a moral failing if they dare speak it aloud. The squeeze. In the shadow of gleaming city hall announcements and ribbon-cutting ceremonies for new welcome centers, a quieter reality unfolds in the neighborhoods that bear the weight of policy without consultation. Take Jackson Heights, once a mosaic of working-class families. Teachers, electricians, bodega owners, who scraped and saved to plant roots in a place they believed rewarded effort. Now many are packing up, not because they've given up, but because the very systems they paid into for decades have turned against them. Schools are a glaring example. Principal Elena Torres used to manage a student-to-teacher ratio of 18:1. Now it's 34:1, and half the new students arrive with no English, no academic records, and trauma that demands counselors the district never hired. The school's maintenance budget hasn't increased, but enrollment has exploded by 40% in 18 months. Meanwhile, the city proudly touts its inclusive education initiative, while cutting music, art, and after-school programs for longtime residents to fund translators and emergency intake staffing. Parents like Marcus, a bus driver who's lived in the same apartment for 14 years, watch helplessly as his son's IEP services get delayed. Not because the need vanished, but because resources are diverted to urgent, high-volume migrant intake. Then there's healthcare. At Bronx General, wait times for non-emergency care have stretched from 2 weeks to 6 months. Dr. Amir Khan, an ER physician, says his department now handles everything from routine vaccinations to chronic disease management. Tasks that should fall to primary care clinics, but those clinics are overwhelmed, understaffed, and underfunded for the scale of demand. We're treating a public health crisis like a logistics problem, he explains, and the people who suffer are the ones who paid into Medicaid their whole lives. Yet every press release celebrates the city's humanitarian response, rarely mentioning that the humanitarian aid is being funded by wage earners whose own access to care is shrinking. Housing is another pressure point, with over 66,000 migrants placed in city-funded hotels, many of them luxury or mid-tier establishments converted overnight. Landlords see an opportunity. Why rent to a local teacher for $2,200 when the city will pay $4,500 a month per room for migrant housing guaranteed and upfront? The consequence? A rental market that prices out the very people who maintain the city's infrastructure. Firefighters, home health aides, retail workers, they're commuting 2 hours each way now, if they're lucky enough to find anything at all. For those who can't flee, homelessness looms. The city's own data shows a 22% rise in local evictions among low-income citizens since 2022, while migrant housing allocations continue to expand. And beneath it all is the quiet erosion of dignity. Maria, the diner waitress from Chapter 1, was recently denied heating assistance despite sub-zero temperatures. Told the funds were temporarily redirected to emergency migrant shelters. She didn't rage. She just cried in her car before her shift, wiped her eyes, and went back to work. Stories like hers don't make headlines. They don't fit the narrative of either side. Pro-immigration advocates call them myths or xenophobic tropes. Anti-immigration voices flatten them into slogans about invasion. But Maria isn't asking for a wall or a deportation raid. She's asking why her years of paying taxes, showing up, and playing by the rules count for less than someone who arrived last Tuesday with nothing but a bus ticket and a promise from City Hall. The truth is, nobody asked Maria's permission. No referendum was held. No town hall explained how her tax dollars would be used to subsidize strangers while her own children wait longer for speech therapy. Her elderly neighbor can't get a bed in a nursing home, and her grocery bill climbs because supply chains are strained by unplanned population surges. She didn't vote for this trade-off, but she's paying for it twice, once with her wallet and again with her future. Until policymakers stop treating native-born working people as an endless reservoir of silent sacrifice, the suffering will only deepen. And the grand carrot, dangled at the border, will keep drawing more, while the foundation it's built on quietly collapses beneath those who were here all along.